Hi there. Today I want to talk to you about what it means to be a first gen success and the challenges that come with that, as well as the superpowers. Now, what exactly do I mean by first gen success? Well, I'm referring to anyone who is the first in their family to have broken through barriers of education, income brackets, and or professional positions. So this could look like having graduated from college, gotten a master's degree, um, being a having surpassed certain income levels and or being in leadership positions for the first in your to be the first in your family to hold those type of positions. And with all this comes its challenges that I want to go over, and it also has its benefits, the superpowers that you develop along the way by being the first to pave the path forward. So let's get to it. I've got three of each, three challenges and three superpowers. So the first one that I want to talk about is identity confusion. This starts to happen when you step into a different world than what you're accustomed to in your home environment. So this could look like when you go to college. Campus is a totally different environment, the way things go in the classroom, and then it also continues in the workplace whenever you get your first position, whenever you step into different environments, different places and spaces where you're not used to being in. One example of this is, I remember I went to this really fancy restaurant a while back, and I was sitting at a table looking at everybody else. I was the only Latina there, and there were like multiple forks, multiple spoons, and knives, and I was confused. I was just looking at other people to see what utensil I should use first. And so that made me feel out of place. That made me feel like I didn't belong there, like I was not good enough for it, quite frankly. And and that's not something that I do at home. Like, we eat tacos, we eat with our hands. We have one fork and knife and spoon. And that's an example of what I call identity confusion, where it's like, well, who am I really? How should I be showing up? Not just at work, but then at home. And so for me, at work, I used to not be assertive enough, but then at home, I was too assertive. At home, I spoke up too much. At work, I didn't speak up enough. And I was like, well, which one am I? Am I the more quiet one, or am I pretty assertive? And it just depended on the type of context that I was in. But you can see how this can cause some confusion as to who you really are. And the fact is that you are a combination of all of those. I consider this to be a superpower. Let me share with you. I'll get to that in just a moment. But so, have you ever experienced anything like this where you feel like you're not enough or too much of that, or you're called a coconut because you are, not really abiding by cultural expectations, where you're told, okay, you think you're too good for us now, you're in these high places, and it makes you feel like you don't belong even with your own family, let alone at work, right? Where you might feel like you have to leave a part of yourself behind because it's not something that you see in the workplace. So that's one challenge. The next challenge I want to talk about is family pressures. So I remember when I got a full scholarship to a top PhD program. It was out of state. And I was really excited to share this news with my family. And I had a tia, an aunt, tell me, don't you think that's enough already? Like, you already have a bachelor's. You want to go for more? We already supported you through your bachelor's. Like, it's time for you to go put that to work and contribute to the family. And so you can just imagine the type of struggle that I had inside of me, feeling like I have a full ride. I know this is going to be amazing for me. I cannot pass it up. But then feeling held back by my tia. And it was a really hard decision for me to make. And thankfully, my parents were very supportive. So that made it a lot more easy for me to just say yes to this opportunity that I was given. But I sometimes think about, like, what happens if you don't have that support from your parents or family members that are really close to you, that have a huge impact on your life. this can hold you back from career opportunities, from moving, going out of state to pursue an opportunity that fell in your lap that you worked really hard for. And now it's a difficult decision to have to make either way, right? So if you accept it, that might mean not seeing your family as much. You might feel guilty for not being there like you used to be. But if you pass up this opportunity, like, that's really hard too, because you worked so hard to get to this point to begin with. And to not run with that, that can make you feel very, very sad, um, very resentful about being put in this position. So it's something that you really have to think about. A lot of times we have these struggles to provide financially to our family. I know that once I was able to climb up the ladder, I felt like I had to give back to my parents and my family in general, those who weren't as privileged as I was in financially or in my career. I felt like it was my obligation to give back to them. And if I'm being completely vulnerable and transparent, this meant that I had to postpone my own financial goals. Maybe it was a vacation that I decided not to take. Maybe it was investments that I didn't end up making because I wanted to be able to provide to more immediate needs for my family. And the way that I finally got around this was to recognize that there's a difference between short term gains and long term benefits. So, in the short term, yes, I can provide for immediate family needs, but in the long term, if I invested, if I saved the money to go on a family vacation rather than spreading my income, throughout family members, then I could make a bigger impact in my family. I could create a bigger legacy. And I had to learn how to say no. I had to learn how to say no to family who requested funds from me because they saw me as the person with the most resources, financially speaking. So there was a bit of guilt in having to say no and to say yes to myself, which in turn would say yes to them as well, by allowing me to advance the family, by opening doors to my children, to be that's something that's also a struggle. When you've got family, you've got your children, you've got your larger family, you've got your immediate family, it can be very challenging. And it's like, where do you come in, right? So these are some family pressures that's really common among first gen, because you're the first one to break through barriers, and your family looks up to you and sees you as the person who can help them more than you really can, because it's just something that's really near and dear to my heart, because it's something that I've experienced quite a bit. And I don't know if you resonate with that, um, but I've had to make some tough decisions and unfortunately disappoint some people. But as long as I kept my eye on the prize and was really clear on what I was trying to do here, what saying no really meant. Because if I said no to this request for accommodations in terms of like providing financially, then I was able to say yes to my children and and move forward the family for the next generation. Hopefully that makes sense. I know I was kind of long-winded with that one, but there's so much going on with family and pressure to provide and to stay close by and not move away. So I hope that you've been able to navigate your family expectations with your career aspirations. Okay, this one's a big one. Number 3, imposter syndrome. So when you're the first one in your family to climb up the ladder, it can feel like, is this for real? Do I really belong here? Do I really have what it takes? You might start to doubt yourself and wonder, did I just get lucky? Did somebody do me a favor? I just knew the right person? Or am I meeting some kind of quota? And I really don't have what it takes. Now, this is a combination of being the first in your family to get to this point, but also based on what society says about you and your culture. I know assumptions have been made about me constantly, confusing me for a student rather than a professor because they're not used to seeing people like me in these type of positions. Looks of surprise when somebody finds out that I'm actually a professor. Like my mom, she told me a story a while back of how her colleague asked her, "How's your daughter doing?" And she said, "Great. She's teaching at a university now." And he's like, "Doesn't she need a master's degree to do that?" And my mom's like, "A master's degree? No, she's got a PhD." And while I had a sense of pride in proving him wrong and having made my mom proud of me, it also made me doubt myself, like, do I even belong here? Do I really have what it takes? This man didn't think that I did. And so I wonder if other people do too. When they look at me, do they expect me to make a mistake? Do they expect that my ideas aren't going to be that great because they have low expectations for me or assumptions about me based on my cultural background? So that's another one. And along with these lines, it makes you work harder than you have to because of that sense of feeling like you have to prove yourself. And this self doubt often leads to burnout because if you are working harder to convince other people and even convince yourself that you deserve this position, you're going to put in more hours, you're going to burn the midnight oil. You are actually going to end up sabotaging the very thing that you're trying to prevent in the first place. And that's your productivity, your impact, your advancement, and your health along the way. So we want to be able to nip imposter syndrome in the bud, get clear on what it is that you bring to the table, make a list of all your accomplishments. That way, whenever imposter syndrome comes up, you can say, you know what, that's not true. And I've got proof. I've done this, this, and this that I can transfer into this area that I'm not feeling very confident in, that I'm wondering whether I've got what it takes to be able to succeed in that area. Because it's something that's going to come up. It affects 70% of people. So we have to be aware of it and manage it so it doesn't hold us back. Now let's get into some superpowers. The first one I want to talk about is ganas. Now, this is similar to grit. Grit is passion and perseverance for long-term goals. It's what keeps you going because it's something that's meaningful to you. Now, ganas adds a component of hunger, of wanting to make all the sacrifices your family made worth it, and to push forward and to be a legacy for your family and pave the path for others in our community. And this is something that really helps you be resilient. And when we have a strong enough why, we will find our way around things. This also helps you be very resourceful. So whenever you want something, you're going striving for something, you're going to be able to find ways to make it happen because there's a hunger behind it. And that drive is going to fuel your hard work ethic. Don't burn out though. It's going to keep your eye on the prize. It's going to help you reach milestones in your career that perhaps you wouldn't have had you not have that drive, that fire under you. So what is your purpose? What makes you move mountains to get to where you want to be? And oftentimes for us, it's our family. It's our legacy. It's our community. Okay, the next superpower that we have is creative problem solving. Listen, when we have few resources at our disposal, we're going to get creative and learn how to improvise and make the most out of what we have at our disposal. And that makes us that's an asset for us. We learn how to solve problems in a very innovative way We think outside the box, and you need to be able to leverage this and actually recognize that this is something that you bring to the table. It's a trait that not a lot of people have as to the degree that you do. And it's easy for us to overlook all these superpowers that I'm mentioning because it's part of who we are. It's second nature to us. But we have to recognize that not everybody has these traits. And so own it. Own that you bring forward these special abilities that make you incomparable, that put you in a position to be the best option for certain um, possibilities, opportunities, promotions. Okay, the third one that I want to share is adaptability. So when we have to navigate two different cultural worlds, we're able to navigate change more easily, adapt to uncertainty, be able to excel in new environments, especially if they're fast paced. We're able to switch, code switching, for example. That's when you're able to turn on, turn off different cultural parts of yourself depending on the context. Now, this isn't about leaving a part of your authentic self behind, but recognizing that different parts of you are going to come out more depending on what's going on, depending on the context. So, those are some superpowers that I wanted to share with you and some challenges that come along the way. But these challenges make you more resilient, and these superpowers make you more valuable. You become the obvious choice for opportunities that require hard work ethic, problem solving, and agility, adaptability, flexibility. You become more resourceful and resilient. Celebrate this. These are amazing traits that you have as a first gen success, as the first one in your family to have broken through barriers of education, income brackets, and professional positions. So go celebrate yourself. Know that you have a lot to contribute. Don't hold yourself back. Don't doubt yourself. And don't burn yourself out trying to prove yourself because you're here for a reason. You've got what it takes. Now let's just go put it out there and have more confidence and a lot less stress as we go and make our impact like nobody else can. All right, take care. Until next time.